Hello. I just finished reading book 3 of On the Calculation of Volumes, so I want to talk about my thoughts and feelings about it without any spoilers because this continues to follow the journey of Tara, who is caught in a time loop, and we've followed her experiences through 2 books, and it continues. It goes on. She's caught in this same day of November. Now you'll see that I'm in a quite different location because I am visiting my family for the holidays back here in the state of Maine. So you can see behind me an old picture of me and my sister when I was quite young, and it feels quite appropriate to be reading and talking about this book while visiting my family and going through a lot of memories and visiting some old locations that, I knew very well when I was growing up, because so much of this book is about the process of memory and how we deal with the weight of our memory and the way that our relationships to other people change over time, and the way our relationships to objects change over time. And we have this sense in our own subjective experience of the world that things will just sort of always stay the same. But of course, they continue to change, and we lose both people and things over a period of time. And all that becomes left of them is our memories of them. But of course, we continue going on and having new experiences. So this story does progress. The plot of it progresses, and there's a number of elements of things that happen in this book, which I won't talk about directly, which I am finding it compelling as the story is going on and continuing to develop, and her experiences of both in the larger world of this day repeating, where she herself is continuing to age, but also exploring the dynamics of this situation of being caught in this time loop, and how does that work, and when objects disappear and when they remain. So that is all really interesting. But again, as I've talked about with the previous 2 books in this series, it is really more about this examination of our relationship with time and space and with other people, and especially our relationships with other people. And I found the middle section of this book so touching as she revisits her husband, who is not caught in this time loop, and who he is just living every day the same, as if it had never happened before, and he is not aging, but she is aging. Quite a lot of time has gone by now, and she's had a lot of new experiences. She's quite a different person from the person she was before. So the way that this novel explores the dynamics of our relationships and how we continue to change as individuals, and obviously our partners in normal circumstances continue to change, but in this circumstance it's he just stays the same, and I think this can sometimes happen in relationships where one person starts to change a lot, and another person is very content and wants things to stay the same. And this can create a lot of conflict in our relationships. And so I found it so moving, the way that this story explores that aspect of that, and how that leads to a break in a connection that she had, which was quite strong, and how this particular situation of her husband Thomas just remaining the same. It's like he's become a photograph or a video that is just playing on a loop. And of course, she still feels a really strong connection with him, but since she has been changing, that her feelings and her relationship to him is naturally altering over the time. And I found this such a poignant way of thinking about how, when we look back on photographs, when we re-examine memories of the past, we can slightly idealize that person and the situation that we were in when we were in a relationship with them at that time. But as time goes on, we can see things in a slightly more objective way rather than just the intensity of the subjective experience as we were going through it. And so I found it so moving the way this story follows Tara as she tries to reconnect with Thomas, and the difficulty of that as she is now continuing to age and grow and change. And so following this story, and where it progresses and how her relationship with the physical world is changing over time, how she is noticing certain sounds and certain aspects of the world, which she just, wasn't so attentive before. And I think probably, all of us have, we go through our days and we're so often caught up in our heads and what we're thinking about in the immediate time that we don't necessarily notice, everything that is happening around us. But of course, since she's got in this time loop, she has the opportunity to do that, and how that is changing her relationship to the world, but also how this story introduces a number of different characters and how they have very different perspectives of both what's happening in the world and their situation, and how this, I think, shows how everyone has their own way of navigating through both their existence and through the physical world, and of what is happening in the day-to-day existence and progression of our society over time, that we can have such radically different understandings of where the world is going, and that might be tempered by more optimistic or more pessimistic feelings about how things are either progressing or things are falling apart over time. And there were so many aspects of this novel that I just found really moving in how it examines all of both the personal and our collective understanding of the world around us. Now, the experience of this novel was slightly different than the first two books, I think, because it has different translators than in English to the first two books. So it was translated by two individuals, Sophia Hersi Smith and Jennifer Russell, and I'm not sure where the translators changed from books 1 and 2 to book 3, but I think that did slightly change the tone and nature of the way of the writing. I found the writing in this book 3 slightly more clipped and direct than in the first two books, but it's still very readable and enjoyable and engaging, and so thought-provoking as as I've been discussing. And I'm and as it seems to be developing a pattern with this series of novels, that there are elements of the plot which would create these kind of cliffhangers that make me want to know what is going to happen in the story next. But again, it's not so much about the story itself or the nature of this phenomenon of being caught in a time loop, but how it gives such a different perspective on the world and our relationship to it. So I'm keen to read more in this series. But again, as I said with the second book, if you've not read the books that have preceded it, then I think most readers will struggle to get much out of this book, because you're just kind of thrown into the circumstance, and there's a lot of assumed knowledge which isn't explained around this, which I'm glad, because I think it can be slightly laborious when there are a series of books and the books have to take so much time to go back and explain why things are the way they are, when a reader who has read the previous books will have that knowledge already. But it's just a kind of warning for readers that probably best not to start with book 3, but to go back to book 1, which I would recommend, and I think is a valuable experience. I do still slightly question whether these need to be published as separate books, especially because they're relatively short. They probably could have all been published in a single volume, but then the author is still continuing to write them, and certainly the other books in the series that have come out in her native language haven't been translated yet, and so it's in a way, I think it's nice that it makes it, we can follow along with it as the series as it is coming out, in real time. I feel like it probably could all just be one book, and I'm looking forward to when all the books do eventually come out there. I assume there's going to be a big sort of omnibus edition of all of these different books. But yeah, I found this a really moving and meditative experience, and as I explained, just as my circumstances at the moment of traveling back and seeing all of my family and hearing stories and seeing all these locations and tasting all these dishes, which, I haven't tasted for quite a while since being away from America. So I've really enjoyed this experience. If you've read this book and are reading this series of books, I would love to hear about your thoughts about it in the comments below. And I hope you're doing well and reading good things. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.